Hey, hello, my friend. What are collectors thinking? What are they buying? How are they spending their money? What type of art are they purchasing? Well, let's take a look, because as we go into 2026, we got to analyze, how collectors were behaving in 2025 that always carry into the next year. So RC just came out with a report of RC trends of 2025, which they always do this at the end of the year. They look at all the data that comes from rc.net, which is one of the online premier platforms for art galleries to sell art worldwide. And my gallery, Territory Contemporary Gallery, are part of RC, so we have access to this data as well. And let's take a look at the report. Let's take a look at what collectors are buying, why I think this may be happening, and how does that affect you and me as artists as well.
Resources, inspiring interviews, business practices, and practical advice to take your art career to the next level. Join Sergio Gomez in today's Artist Next Level and get ready to take control of your career.
As artists, we always are wondering, what are collectors buying right now? What are the trends? What is it that's moving in what direction for the collectors? And for me as a gallery owner of now 20 years here at Territory Contemporary, I'm always thinking about that too, right? Analyzing the data. So there's data that's out there that can give us some information, that can give us some aspects of figuring out what are collectors buying and what does that mean. Now, what I don't want you to think about as you watch this video is like, okay, now I'm going to change all my art exactly to the trends, because most likely it's not going to work. That's not what trends are for. This is just for analytics. This is just for kind of getting an understanding of the psychology behind collectors right now. Because, buying art is also contextual to what happens in the world of our culture, of life, and many things. So just as artists, we respond to the world at large as well. So let's take a look at this list. I think it's a short list that can give us a lot of insight, a lot of information, and it's going to be really, really good. And it's going to help us as artists to be more informed. So I think these are really good. I'm not going to talk about what are the artists that sold the most. You can find that really easily online. These are kind of like trends, collector or buyer trends worldwide. The way RC gets this data is, one, they look at all their platform, what has sold in the platform all throughout the year, and they have access to all that data. They know exactly what people are searching for when they go into RC, when collectors go into rc.net. For example, to give you here, Territory Contemporary Gallery, we have now 2 locations, one in the Palm Beach Art and Design Showroom in Lake Worth, and then we have one here at Coconut Creek, the Promenade at Coconut Creek, also in Florida. But besides what we have in our gallery spaces, it's just a small percentage of our inventory. We actually have over 2,000 pieces available for our collectors worldwide through rc.net. So we have a lot of art on rc.net as well. And it's really good to be able to see from rc.net, at the end of the year, this sort of report. So let's go for it. The first thing that came up, it's called Into the Blue. So Into the Blue, what they said is that in a year of paradigm-shifting changes, art buyers turn to a color long associated with calm and tranquility by psychologists. Calm, cool, and classic blue was the it color of 2025. Quite interesting, right? Color blue. Now, I was kind of curious, and I was looking at the sales that we did on RC this year in 2025, and as we go into 2026, and I was looking at those sales, and in our case, it wasn't necessarily that we sold more blue paintings, right? However, there were quite a few that were blue, but not necessarily I saw a big spike. However, when looking as they did into the overall data, they found that 20%, it was more searches for color blue. So searches for blue color on RC rose by 20% year over year. That means more and more people are looking at color blue, and maybe not necessarily because they're looking at color blue because they have a blue couch, but I think, and I was talking to this with my wife, Dr. Jaina Gomez, who is a psychologist, and we're thinking about, I think people are right now looking for things that are calm. We live in a world that is constantly on the edge. Economics, the world of finances are on the edge. There's uncertainty in the market. Many art galleries have closed. Also, financial stability is kind of all over the place. So when there's that kind of thing, I think we all want to get home and relax and have more a peaceful environment around us. So I think people may be right now looking for a break when they get home versus getting home to more war, more chaos, more instability. Looking for something that's more peaceful, that's going to help you just sit on the couch, get a book and read, or just chill, watch something, or just relax, right? Having that idea. So I think that's perhaps why this color blue 20% increase year over year, is significant. And I think for us to start is something to think about. Not that I'm going to be changing now to color blue in all my paintings. I'm not doing that for sure. In fact, there's very little number of paintings that I have that are all blue. Red is my favorite color, so I use a lot of red, warms, and things of that nature. But I think there's something about peacefulness. And looking back at what I sold as an artist too, and some of the big commissions that I got this year, in terms of paintings, they definitely had to also do with things that were beautiful and calm. And I think that's something that stood out in my sales of 2025. So as I'm going into 2026, I'm thinking about that. Don't expect me to now be doing all blue palette painting. That's not what I'm going to be doing. And I hope you don't just follow a trend just because it says blue and then now you make all your blue paintings. But it's good to know kind of the reasons why behind it, what I think may be that, right? People want peace. So that means also that if you have a work that is blue in your inventory, here's the thing, here's the catch too. Probably all of us have something that is blue. You can make a post in your social media and say, hey, did you know that according to artsy.net, the color blue is, has increased, perhaps because we all want to have something more calmness in our lives. Hey, I have these pieces that are about that, are about calmness, or have infused this sense of calmness or beauty or celebration of life, whatever it may be. Just using this data as an anchor for a conversation. I think that would be kind of cool and something that you can take from this particular data point. So let's go to the next one, which I think is good. And this one I think can appeal to all of us, doesn't matter what kind of art you make. And this one is called Mini Art Major Impact. Mini Art Major Impact. This year, art buyers agree that size matters. Affordability, wider visibility across the art world, and interior trends like gallery walls all drove demands for little artworks. And this is true. I think this one is right spot on. Now, check out this number from Artsy, okay? 40% of all sales, of all purchases on Artsy, 40%, almost half, were small works. Wow, this one was really something that made me stop. 40% were small works. And it made me stop because I'm an artist known for these large, big paintings. I love large scale. I've been doing large works for the last 20 years. And as a gallery owner, looking back again at our sales of the year, I see that a lot of the sales were actually small. That didn't mean that we didn't sell any big ones. We sold, some really big works. However, the majority, I think, were in the smaller size. Now, by small, I don't say like 8 by 8 or, 6 by 6. But smallish to me is like 16 by 20 and below, right? That's what I consider small. RC didn't specify what exactly they mean by small. Depends on the size of a big painting. Small could be still at 30 by 40 could be considered small, right? To me, that may be more like a medium-ish. But, I think, something that is considered that would fit right above a couch, right above, on a corner, on a wall, or something that could easily be fit. That's why I think in 16, 20 and below, I think they're good sizes that you can typically arrange, fit anywhere in your home. So this is quite interesting. And I think this is good information for us artists. I always advise artists in in my program, inside the Next Level program, which is our coaching program, I always advise our artists you should have large, medium, and small in your inventory at all times. You should have some works that are large, even if it's just one, because one large work, for example, can help you sell the other smaller ones. Why? Because all of a sudden that large work becomes the more expensive. So now your normal, typical size that you make then doesn't look as expensive anymore because you got that one that is huge and that is a lot more expensive, right? Versus if you do always, let's say you always work as a 30 by 40 and that's your larger size and that's your price point, for those sizes is already set. So that's your cap. If that's your size, make one that is like 60 by 60, make it a lot more expensive, and now your regular range now looks a little bit more affordable, right? So I always advise artists have that. In my own art career, in 2025, I actually, adapted that more. So I did a whole series. I'm right now doing a series of smaller pieces. These are 11 by 14, smaller works. Again, besides my large ones that I already make anyway, just to have also that range of sizes. Another thing that I'm doing too to expand my inventory as an artist, I'm doing what I'm calling a legacy project, where I'm doing 1,000 butterflies. So I'm going to show you one right here. I'm doing a series of 1,000 butterflies, which you'll see right here. This is about 9 by 12 inches in size. They hang on a wall, and they can be placed on a table with a base at the bottom. And each one is different. They're unique, and they're all numbered, dated, and everything. So it's a big project that's going to take me probably maybe 3 years or so to make all 1,000 butterflies, but I'm selling them, one at a time. So it's an ongoing legacy project. There's a lot of, reasons why the butterfly and the story about each piece, etc. I'm not going to spend time on that. I'm going to do another video about that in the future. But again, it's the idea to always have something that is at scale, small, and also unique and memorable, and also more affordable as a price point for people who come to my studio, who come to the gallery, who want to see me on my website and want something from me that they can afford. So that's that. Plus also, the prints or reproductions that particularly this holiday season, they did really well. Sold a lot of prints. So that was really nice. And I think that's, again, it's affordable. A lot of people came to buy gifts and they pick a print because it was easy. They could, give it to somebody. I had a guy, for example, who walked in the gallery one day and he was on his way to a housewarming party. He said, hey, I'm on a housewarming party. The person that I'm going to visit is it's an interior designer. So instead of buying something, I wanted some art. So he came to the gallery. He had a certain budget. So we gave him a really nice, beautiful print, frame it for him. It looked really nice. And he was so excited and so happy to walk into that housewarming party with a beautiful print that looked fabulous. So again, he didn't have to spend thousands of dollars on it, but a print small size, I'm sure that the person who got it, was able to fit it somewhere in the house because it was not large. So I think, having for all of us as artists, a range of sizes, and particularly as we move forward, to have always a small collection, small works that you can release, that you can on a constant basis remind people that you have them, show them, hold it in your hands when you're doing your marketing. I think it's going to be very valuable, and I think it's going to be very useful, and I think it's a line in your inventory that can generate quite a very substantial income for you. Next one is the tablescape renaissance. This one was also quite interesting. In 2025, interest spiked in works featuring tables, food, and gatherings from picnics to dinner parties, mirroring our cultural appetite for community and connection. I thought that was pretty cool. That was quite interesting as well. It says that 61% sales of food tagged art rose by 61%. So in Artsy, when you upload an artwork as a gallery and you put all your inventory, you can tag all the artwork with their different, there's like 50 key points that one assigns to each artwork. Like, it's an abstract, or it's oil, or it's food, or nature, whatever, right? So artwork that was tagged with the food category rose by 61%. So that's a pretty big jump. That's a huge increase. And I think that has to do, again, with the idea of gatherings, right? Of being together. I think we live in a world now with AI and everything becoming so automated and so fast-paced. I think we all want community. We all want opportunities to connect with others. So what a better way to do it than on a dinner table, right? When you're sitting, having a good meal with other people in community. And I think that's a reflection of the world. I think, like I said at the beginning of my video, just as artists will respond to the world, collectors too, in their collector trends, you look at, they also responding to the world around us, and the world around us chaotic, in one way. That's why we're looking for more peaceful art, and it's also all kind of becoming individualistic and more tech driven. So, we are looking in our homes for the opposite, something that reminds us for, community, connection, gatherings of people, and that is, I think, a good thing. Now, the next one, which is the last one I want to share with you, is back to the land. This one is interesting. Purchases on Artsy reflected the appeal of nature and its promise of restoration. From digital detoxing to touching grass, this trend revealed a pull toward nature. How about that, huh? 44%. Here we go. Search terms like flora rose by 44% year over year on Artsy. That means that there's an increase over time of people that are looking for art that has to do with nature in some way or fashion. Could be the oceans, could be, flora, could be flowers, and all kinds of points of nature, touching the grass, being at the park, and even abstract works that kind of have that sense of nature. There's a rise to that. And I think this is very good news for those of you artists who are watching this right now, and you have artwork that relates to nature, or is inspired by nature, or has something to do with nature. I think in a world, again, which becomes more polluted every day, people inside their home, again, they want to feel a closer touch with nature. So you can make a post on your Instagram and say, hey, did you know that, 40% year over year, according to Artsy, more people are trying or looking at art that connects them to nature. Well, guess what? I have a whole inventory, of 300 pieces that are all about nature, or my art practice about nature, or I'm inspired by nature, or look no further. Make that an excuse time over time. Use this data to your advantage. Like I said, don't change what you're doing just to fit on the trend, but use the trends to also use them in your marketing to talk about your art. When somebody comes and looks at your work, say, hey, did you know that a lot more people are looking into nature? That's according to the statistics. So that is a good thing for you, a talking point, a way of connecting your art with the larger audience, particularly people who may be connected with nature. So these are the trends that Artsy released that I found to be quite interesting, and I wanted to make this video to share with you, because as an artist, I see them and I think they make sense. I see why. I'm using this data also in my own marketing, to talk about this. And also as a gallery owner, well, I'm looking at these trends too. When somebody walks in the door of the gallery, I understand a little bit more maybe what are the trigger points, where they may be looking when they're looking at a painting that has nature on it, for example. And these are the things that I love to talk about inside our program, inside the Art Next Level program, to share with our members, to strategize together. It's exactly what we're doing with the Art Business Sustainability Challenge that we are doing in 2026. So if you're interested in joining that challenge, make sure you check out the resources under the video, or go to theartistnextlevel.com, click on the Art Business Sustainability Challenge. So all about making our art career sustainable, from our financials to our mindset wellness, to our business, to our organization, opportunities, so that we can not only sustain it, but also grow our business year after year, year over year, and always be on an upward trajectory. I don't believe on overnight success, that overnight success comes and then those artists disappear 3 years later. No, I believe on a steady, slow, growth year after year that can really, really make a difference in your art career and really make it sustainable. So if you want to join us, just go to theartistnextlevel.com, join us for the challenge. It's going to be amazing.
Check out our website at www.theartistnextlevel.com, where you will find our podcast library, learn about our upcoming webinars, find resources relevant to your career, and much more. Thanks for listening to today's podcast, and we'll see you at the next level.